is going on, guys? This is day 58 of the 90-day challenge. I happened to catch the tail end of Dan Martin's video talking about copywriting today, and it was funny because last night I was literally just doing it for the first time. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch that again. It started at Central Time at 4 o'clock, which is 2 o'clock my time, exact time I get off of work. And so when I came in, it was about 2:30. But no, I got to go back and watch that again. I'm sure there was plenty that I missed on that. I figured I would talk about something about turf again. So one of the things that I find very important to keep in mind is that it's something that shouldn't be overcomplicated by means of putting the horse in front of the carriage or the carriage in front. How does that saying go on? I always forget that one, but nonetheless, people get way far ahead when it comes to turf care and not getting the foundation set first. And that was actually the scope of my first ebook that I made. It was called My Golf Lawns, Getting Back to the Basics of Turf Grass Management. So what it is it comes down to what's called as primary cultural practices, and there's three of them, which is irrigation, mowing, and fertilizer. Those three things, if you got them dialed in, will take care of a lot of other things as well. So if you are properly mowing, so for example, if you're getting your blade sharpened regularly, that will be very effective for the lawn, because if you are cutting it with a dull blade, it will shear it in a way where it just it's not giving it a clean cut. So what will happen is that the leaf tissue is exposed to the elements that could hurt it, such as funguses or diseases, windburned. It's as is. It is like for fitness. It's like a catabolic state. When you're cutting it, you're putting it under stress, but one of the, it just has to go with turf care, which is mowing. So when you're mowing, the more often you can mow, the better it is for it. So what it's known as mowing frequency. So more often you cut it, it tells itself that it can't grow up, it's going to grow out. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. And then for irrigation, I mean, we don't want to insult your intelligence, but grass does require water just like humans. And what it will do is that it has to do as well with frequency. So when you have an established lawn, the rule of thumb is deep but infrequent. So you get the ground wet well enough for the root zone, but not enough to where it just sits there, because you're trying to encourage the roots to go deep rather than if it just sits on the surface and that's just where the roots are going to stay. There's no encouragement for it to go deeper, and that's great for its foundation. And also, the longer the roots are, the more exposure it has to uptake the water along with nutrients. So that brings me to the third one, which is fertilizer. So if you look at a fertilizer bag, you're going to have three numbers on it, which goes in the following, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Nitrogen is very important for the sense that it is going to be the number one nutrient that is uptaken by the roots that generally does not have the essential needs in the soil itself. So regardless of whether it's sand, silt, clay, nitrogen always needs to be replenished via fertilizer. Phosphorus, potassium, that's where the best way to gauge that is actually to do a soil sample test. And soil sample tests are going to tell you that, but the most important thing that you can check on a soil sample is what the pH says. So grass likes to be between 6.5 and 7. If it's out of that range, if it's too high or too low, then regardless of what fertilizer you give it, it essentially will not uptake those nutrients. It's like it's in a sick state. So there's treatments that you can do to get it back to the proper balance. So if it's too high, you would add sulfur, and that'll lower the pH. If it's too low, then you add lime. My case here, I'm most likely to have a low soil pH because of the cedar trees and the fir trees, but especially the cedar trees. The droppings that it gives you it's just so acidic. So what I do when it starts coming down, especially in the fall, is I'll bring my blower out right away and get that crud off the lawn, because not only will it lower your pH, but it also will burn the foliage of the grass itself, thinning it out, which during wintertime when it's dormant allows an opportunity for other things to come in. For myself, as an example, again, we have a huge moss issue up here in the Pacific Northwest, and there's treatments to take care of that as well. But I can continue with this rabbit hole. Those are the 3 cultural practices to keep in mind. There's things that follow it, which are called supplementary cultural practices, which are consistent of aerification, dethatching, and a few others, but those are probably the 2 biggest ones to consider. There are also, if you're to go on the chemical application, there's things called plant growth regulators, and that would take me forever to explain. So I could use that as something else to talk about if anybody's interested. Go from there. Pretty sure it's day 58, which means tomorrow's 59. If today's 59, tomorrow will be 60. So anyways, I'll get it right in the title. All right, thanks you guys.